welcome back to Star Trek Discovery, Season 5, Episode 8, which, to nobody's surprise, is the second best episode of television I've seen all week. Note that I didn't say the worst, despite it also being true. I don't watch much. But anyway, yes, some lovely TNG theme warp engines, because I was sitting here listening to the Discovery ambiance and finally remembering, God, it's real bad. Like, at least in the YouTube video I watch. I mean, please. Do you know how frustrating it is that the only official... Actually, that's not true. I think that TNG we were just listening to was official. Hang on a sec. It wasn't. I think they might have released it. But the only one I know of that Paramount has really released is the Borg ambience from the Lower Decks credits, where it was just the Borg sound on loop. God. Annoying. But anyway, Labyrinths. You know, the last 5 minutes, I was tempted to go with the worst episode of television I'd seen all week. But other than that, it was fine. It was fine. It had some bits I liked. It had some bits I really liked, actually. But it kind of seemed to focus on... Hang on. My headphones are doing something weird. There we go. I didn't have noise canceling on my headphones, so my voice sounded really weird. It unfortunately seemed to, like, focus on the one element I didn't really like. And I kind of wish we got some more, if either as, like, a B-plot or some of the other things. In fact, does this episode have a B-plot? Or is it just so thin that it might... I guess there technically is a B going on. I don't know if I'd call it a B-plot. There's just a B in this episode. But it was also just increasingly as time went on, just kind of more frustrating how Burnham was handling her mind palace. I don't know, we're calling it a mind palace. Their mindscape, I think that's what the show called it. Because, right, she's in this... We'll get into more detail, but, like, it's overall, she's in this, you know, hidden space. She knows she's got to, like, pass a test to do it. And the only source of consistency, the only thing in this test that anyone who would possibly, like, take it is this AI thing that talks to him. And beyond that, the only, like, feedback that the creator has given for this test is the AI. And Burnham chooses actively to not engage with it, which was increasingly more and more frustrating to watch. I can't talk more. I'm going to elaborate where, I guess skipping ahead in our scene by scene a bit, Burnham finds herself in this place, right? She has everything explained by the AI. And we learn that this place is considered the most important thing in her world right now. Apparently she doesn't realize that's because of the mission till later, because this is Michael Burnham. But, right. She knows this is the most important place, and Book's the most important person. Or no, she doesn't know. She just knows Book was chosen for reasons. She doesn't know why. And she's told she has to find something. Which, in fact, thinking about it is... It's the truth in the same way that Darth Vader killed your father is the truth, but we're going to brush past that for a sec. And so she deduces that, like, everything is here for a reason, which she's been told. So she goes to the history section of the library, because if everything's here for a reason, then there must be a clue to narrow down the search, because this place is massive. Ergo, she decides it's in the history section for reasons, but her reasons aren't important, but what matters is, like, she makes very clear thoughts about, like, what happens, where the scientist, who I'm pretty sure was a she, but the scientist would hide something in the library to help narrow the search. But the library isn't part of the test. We know the library isn't part of the test, because the only reason it's the library is that it's the most important place in Burnham's life. if the most important place in my life was my bathroom, which is, like, small, then you wouldn't be in a big place, so finding an item would be trivial, and there wouldn't really be any context clues that could help lead you to there. Theoretically, you know, the program could be generating something. It's like, okay, your important spot is a library, so I've got to construct clues around that. Or if my most important place was my bathroom, it'd be absolutely massive. Like, you know, presumably this isn't the exact layout of the library. One, because Burnham doesn't know it, and two, because it's literally a maze later. But Burnham's like, can you answer yes/no questions? Depends on the question. Brilliant. Let me not ask questions. It just really got to me, you know? I mean, the first question you should ask is it something along the lines of, is it possible for you to lie to me? Because for all you know, I mean, if he says yes, it tells you nothing, but if he says no, then, like, sorry, no, if he says no, it tells you nothing. If he says yes, then you know he's untrustworthy. It doesn't hurt to ask. I think she also knows she's on a time limit at this point. But I wasn't too frustrated, because, you know, that's just the one question. It's like, you should have asked. But more and more as time goes by, she just doesn't ask questions. I'm in a maze. Got it. I'm in the maze. I know, I'll leave sand so I can find my way. Well, this maze is fictitious. It's in my mind. The physical space doesn't exist. So, hey, AI, does this maze follow the limitations, like the laws of reality? Is it changing? Is it malleable? Will the sand thing even work? Because the AI offered it, but the AI is proven to not be particularly helpful. In fact, if she had asked will this maze follow the rules of reality, she would have got the answer no, and then she wouldn't have wasted all of her time. Which, again, a little frustrating. You're not using the sole constant in means of interacting with the program. But God, you know what really got me? Is she's dying. She has no clue what to do. Still clearly too fixated on, like, getting the tech, which is not what the people would have want. Like, I assumed that the resolution would be she'd have to kind of give up and be like, you know what, it's not worth it. And it's the only people who should have power are the people who don't want it kind of deal. But, you know, she's going on this big rant. She's like, I'll never want to fail again, or something. And the AI goes, again. For literally the only time this entire episode the AI has ever probed for more is she's desperately searching for what to do and actively questioning the AI on what needs to be done. When the AI goes out of its way to probe again and has a, I want to know more about this look. What does she do? Throws the book in the air and goes, you know what? I'll figure it out myself. Burnham, please stop being you. Stop being you. Because of course the you know, like, it's one thing to not ask with the AI. Maybe she's just not that kind of person. I mean, this crew seems to actively not want to ask questions. But, God, she, like, actively goes out of her way to not engage with the AI. There's my little rant over. It's episode 8. Look, it's episode 8. If you don't like me complaining, you've left already. But no, let's kind of talk a bit more broadly. I don't think I've got too much to say about the brain stuff going on until, like, the last 5 minutes. And you probably know why. It was a pretty basic, like, you know, Maul is trying to undermine the authority of the Priarch. Because she knows that, like, as soon as she gives the Priarch what he wants, he's gonna get rid of her. And very clearly, like, the Primarch here is aware of this. He sees that she's fighting back, is like, hey, I see what you're doing, don't cross me. And of course, the soldiers probably can see this as well, but I'm not going to complain about that. Because it doesn't matter if they know that she's trying to undermine the Priarch's authority, provided she's right. Like, the Priarch genuinely has every single flaw that she is calling him out for. Hey, you don't care about Breen artifacts. Hey, you don't care about your sacred oath. Hey, you don't really want Locke. Like, these are all real criticisms that everyone here should probably dislike the Priarch for. So yeah, whatever. Not too much. I did kind of find it funny where he's going through the whole Breen speech and he's like, out of respect for the wife of the Scion, I will now speak her tongue. It's like, oh yes, that definitely seems like something you would do in character and not as totally just for the audience. That's a minor thing because I don't like reading this. Like, it's, on the one hand, it's cool to have the alien languages, when they're just speaking amongst themselves, right? But what it does is it brings your eyes down here. And this was a really big complaint I had of, like, Season 1 of Discovery, is that you took these Klingons, you radically redesigned them, and made them incredibly ornate and detailed. And you could spend, like, hours probably just looking at a single frame and finding all the intricacies and everything they did. And then for, like, virtually every single scene in one of their Klingon sets with Klingons, your eyes were down here because you had to read subtitles. So it's nice that, you know, even though this is a much more barren set, you know, you let me actually look around and kind of be in the story. Especially when the Breen language is, like, a transformer, you know? Is that casual alien racism? I think it is, but it is just like the Transformer noise, right? I'm amazed. Wait, who owns Transformers? Hasbro. Yeah, but who owns Transformers movies? Is it Paramount? Paramount does have the license. You know what? I am no longer surprised that Paramount doesn't sue Paramount for using the Transformer noise for the Breen language. It is, right? It is. It just is. That's how the Breen talk. Yeah, so for interesting thing about this woman, I actually had to talk with the Buffer Time people about this, because I had to work out the alien redesigns of classic Star Trek. I've said this a lot in other series, especially Picard, are kind of like subdued. They're what they were before, but way more subdued and much more human. And it took me ages looking at this woman who is quite clearly a Klingon. Look at her. She's got Klingon forehead. She's basically got an updated version of the Klingon warrior armor for this century. Like, that forehead straight out of TNG. So I was like, why does she still feel subdued? Why does she still feel a bit wrong? And I realized, for one, it's the teeth, but then I was pointed out that this isn't a Klingon. It's not. What is she? She is a Brosian, who are the people what did the Khitomer Accords in Undiscovered Country. They look like Klingons, basically. They actually look less Klingon than this art in front of me. Oh wait, hang on. I'm doing Star Trek. I can show you. Star Trek Abrosian. So cool to see them. I mean, no, that's not Obsidian. Abrosian. When I Googled that, I got the Cardassian logo. Here we go. They're these fellers. That's a Klingon. That's a Klingon. But yeah. I'll bring this up for the sole reason that I find it hilarious. This is the most Klingon design since Enterprise, and it's not even a Klingon. Look at her! That's amazing! Use this for the Klingons, except give them their, like, spiky teeth back, and I'd be so happy. Like, 32nd century, at least, you know. Even the outfit, like, come on. I assume this was more peaceful 32nd century Klingon outfit, but it's just, like, the library gear. Did it rub anyone else kind of weird that, like, they kept, like, they just seemed really rude the whole time. They didn't interrupt, they interrupted her spiel to be like, we're kind of in a hurry. Which, like, they kind of played it off, like, I don't know if it's supposed to be sort of some annoying sales pitch, or like this person is just explaining what the archive is and what it does, and they're like, ugh, God, stop with the sales pitch, even though you're not actually selling anything, or like being really annoying, which is weird. Like, because in universe, out of universe, this is Star Trek. Like, we like learning new things. The fan base would enjoy hearing this. In universe, we literally haven't met these people for 100 years, and they're mission critical to a red directive. You probably want this update. Like, what if in the past 100 years they've actually become super militaristic? Like, you don't know. What if they're currently under siege? What if they're occupied by the Breen? You don't know. And it's probably not the longest spiel. How long could she go on about what the archive does? You're also... I'll get to this later, but you do have a massive head start on the Breen. Not that much, apparently. We'll get to that at the end. Because, giving yourself a spore drive in a race is having some consequences. But what's the other one? They just seem really ill-prepared. Is it just me? Everywhere they've gone, they've seemed really ill-prepared. And, they haven't done any research at all. Because they haven't. But, it's just... when they go in the Badlands, they're, it nearly destroys the ship. And, they don't know to cut off their engines. Even though they probably should. I don't remember. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say Deep Space Nine didn't say you can't bring a big starship through the Badlands without turning off your engines. Even though I know there were definitely rules about starships in Badlands. But, this... We know about the Badlands. We've known about it for 800 years. And also, you didn't jump into the Badlands because, honestly, they might have given a reason, and I just didn't notice it. But they jumped out of the Badlands, so it's just weird. At least the Badlands effect is pretty good. Obviously, more detailed than Deep Space Nine. I kind of wish they might have contained, because the Badland used to be a bit of a sandwich. You had sort of cloud stuff up here, cloud stuff back down here, and you had big tornadoes and stuff like that going up down the middle. I don't know, that's just the purist in me, but this is fine. I'm like, yeah, that's Badlands. I was real disappointed in myself last week that I didn't just recognize the Badlands from the brief, the descriptions and what we saw, and the telepathy thing Book was doing. So I was like, it's a nebula, there's a lot of fire, it's hectic, it's orange. Yeah, Nathan, that's the Badlands. You should have... You're better than this. You should recognize the Badlands. Little calm in the Badlands does feel a bit weird. Apparently this is a century-long stable area. Don't question how they got the place here in the first place. But I don't remember that being a Deep Space Nine thing. You could just say maybe it wasn't explored. Because I think the Badlands was pretty unexplored. That's the whole point, reason it made, a great covert meeting spot. But yeah, I mean, a nice citadel. Again, really not a whole lot about this early part of the story. So skipping ahead. Yeah, they also get kind of annoyed. It makes more sense when you realize just how close the Breen were. But they're like, come on, Burnham, you are guests here. And I guess at this point, I didn't feel the time pressure, because I don't think we'd established the Breen could be here within hours, They never say how long they're here. In theory, they could have been on this in this place for weeks. But I get the vibes that it's, not that much longer than the actual course of the episode, It's just a few hours. So, I mean, yeah, we'll address it. This means that by, sheer coincidence, or rather, it's kind of a contrivance, that the library is close enough to Federation headquarters that the Breen could get there Like, the Discovery has the capability to warp literally anywhere, but they're warped somewhere that is close enough for the Breen to still be a threat. I'm not too upset about it in this one case. We've never established where Federation headquarters is. The Andorians are kind of like a big deal in the Emerald Chain, as I remember. And Andoria is really close to Vulcan, right? Because, they were rivals and stuff back in Enterprise. And Vulcan is neighbors with Earth. So presumably the Federation HQ is, you could say it's just more on the Bajor side of the Federation. Like, that's not the biggest stretch. What does get me, and something we'll really have to address next episode, is evidently, in the 32nd century, the Precursor's technology is a 6-hour warp from Deep Space Nine, for all intents and purposes. Like, right smack dab there. This is practically Federation territory in the Dominion, the 24th century. Like, it just feels real contrived that it could be literally anywhere in the galaxy that you could have gotten access to in, like, Deep Space Nine times. Which includes the Gamma Quadrant. I suppose we're right next to the wormhole, though. And it was, like, within active threat zone to where the last crew they happened to get as well. This could have been the first. They could be over in Trill, and theoretically got that one last. We'll also set up. I mean, I'm not gonna judge it before we see next episode, because there's got to be something. The Progender's tech isn't just like on a planet that was a 6-hour drive from Bajor this whole time. It's gonna be hidden in some way, but it's got to be hidden enough to justify the fact that nobody happened to stumble upon this in 800 years. When it's either in, like, core Federation territory, or core Cardassian territory, or core Dominion territory. I mean, maybe we could be in the Gamma Quadrant. I'd be impressed if, like, they sent a scientific mission to the Gamma Quadrant during the Dominion War, but, I mean, the Federation was weird, right? The last time I watched Deep Space Nine, side tangent, the episode where they meet the Dominion, Bajor sets up a colony, like, just outside the wormhole, and the Dominion show up, the Jem'Hadar show up, and they're like, hey, on the other side of the wormhole, that's Dominion space. That's our territory. So we've murdered everyone on the colony because it's in our territory. It was an invasion, like, even if unknown. And don't come here again. It's our sovereign territory. And yes, they didn't have to murder Bajor, but Sisko's reaction is, F you, we go where we please. Like, he gets angry, he's like, no, we're Starfleet, we'll explore the Gamma Quadrant if we want. It's like, whoa, Sisko, like, they have a right to their territory. Wait, do you go up to the Romulans and be like, the neutral zone, we explore where we damn please? Like, no. So it's just, it's really weird. You forget that Deep Space Nine is just the Federation decided to commit incursions on Dominion territory. Just because they wanted to. I mean, the episode really doesn't get going until, well, right there. But I like the setting. A little strange that everything is, like... Actually, I've just realized, not only is it a book, it is, like, classic, decorative... I want to say human books, but it might even just be Western books. I'm pretty sure my uncle literally has whatever this volume is right here. In fact, I might have some of whatever this volume is right here. Is it in a dictionary? I know, I recognize it. Because you can get these books as, like, decoration. If I could pull up Today I Found Out. Oh, hang on. Okay, I'm not going to spend long on this. But I just want to check. I am, like, pretty sure my uncle has those books. But, they mentioned they're in, like, antique they're like an antique place, so maybe they only specialize in the antique books, or most things are antique books, or their digital stuff, their digital collection is like fits on a hard drive that size. Okay, hang on. I've got a video up. I just have to check. I could have got my video up. I filmed in his studio. No, he has a very similar set of books. Dang it. Or at least he doesn't have that set of books in his frame. But no, I did like the library setting. It does fall apart when you think about it. I would have liked some more alien books. It's just harder to source, I guess. But yeah, you know, I like that sort of archivist vibe, the memory alpha of the universe. And that was kind of enough for these first 15 minutes. You got the kind of tease of something with book and Quajon. You had a pun, of course, where they're like, a book visiting me in the library. I'm gonna choose to believe a human colleague told me this joke. Or maybe you're a librarian. You know a lot of words for books when you're an interstellar librarian. But yeah, that was really enough, honestly, the library section. Oh, David C., thank you for the $20 donation. They filmed the library scenes at the Thomas Fisher Rare Book Library in the University of Toronto. That makes sense. I'm gonna Google this library, because does it actually look like that? Oh my god, it actually looks like that. Wow. This is an amazing looking library. Okay, for those of you at home, I'm not doing Doctor Who. It just looks like that. I assumed that was the effect, and I think they might have chopped, like, this wall here. You know, they did definitely extend some things, but damn. Yeah, no, look, like, they just filmed here. This is the big central column. All they did is just crop that out and extend downwards. Okay, well, you know, now it makes sense why all the books look like human old books, but, that is one hell of a filming location, I will admit. It works. I mean, even just down to the coloring, like, of all the wood panels and their vaguely soft orange vibes. Like, that is so much what the aesthetic of this series is. I didn't know. It never occurred to me this could be a real location. So 10 out of 10. Well done. That must have been so impressive. I've been to some impressive places like that. Heck, the library at UW is quite impressive as well, but dang, that's a great one. Welcome to one of the highlights of the episode. I wish we had spent more on this. The glowing yellow columns look a bit like a warp core. Yeah. It's an interesting... I don't know if I designed a Federation warp core, but I could see the brain using that. Definitely. I wish we had spent more time on this. I really enjoyed the whole, like, book suddenly being confronted with, like, presumably one of the last Quajonian artifacts. And the actor here did a good job. I don't actually know who plays Book because they don't put the actors' names in the credits. And again, okay, now it's time, my turn, like, little librarian lady. Like, you were inconsiderate here. Surely you're aware what this must mean to this dude. But yeah, I would have liked some more time here. I don't know exactly what you could have done with it. It's not like it feels there's stuff missing. And we could always see a little bit more in future episodes if you did take this box. Like, maybe he plants one. Or, you know what, actually, I could see this being the resolution to the Burnham book thing. Especially because there's two plants. But is there, like, planting one of these cuttings together? And so it's growing this, like, is it a sacred tree, I think he said? And it's sort of like a new beginning out of destruction even. Heck, dang it, that'd be real thematic. But yeah, no, I felt the emotion here. David, I'm really bad at foreign names when I don't know what the language is. But we'll go with David here. Yeah, he did a great job. He was pretty good in this episode. Like, he had more range than we usually give him. Give the character a book, I guess. Like, he played a few roles here. I hope he plants this somewhere and starts a new world route. Yeah, I was honestly surprised he didn't say it. Like, you could use these to plant the trees. but that would add a lot more weight to like the impact of this discovery. Ajala. Yeah, I mean basically how it looks then. But yeah, no, I mean I like that. It was good character work. Oh my god, Discovery. It's Discovery. What have you done? Yeah. This is why I was really hoping we get more, and when we didn't, and we just got more of the Mind Palace stuff falling apart. For God, woman, ask questions. Like, part of it is you have to be kind of careful with this character didn't do what I'd do. Isn't a criticism. Like with Burnham. But the thing is, I feel like it's kind of the bigger problem with Burnham in a lot of ways isn't the best Starfleet captain. And they really hide behind, like, they hide that. Well, she's not the best officer. And they hide that by, one, making her a captain, so you don't see her insubordination. And two, they honestly don't have her do too much, like, actual captaining work. She's a lot of, like, boots on the ground stuff. And this is the first time in a while we've given her, like, a captaining position. And on top of the stuff of, like, not, like, actively going out of their way to not learn about the archive and what's happened in the past 100 years, or research anything about the Badlands, which we definitely know about, is just, you know, she didn't ask questions. She's a Starfleet officer. Beyond that, she started off in the sciences. She was a xenoanthropologist and didn't want to know about the archive. Because I guess because she's so one-track mind and fixated, but it's still kind of difficult to imagine that she wouldn't be like, you know, maybe showing how gosh darn determined I am to get this clue is something that the people here don't want to see. Like the people trying to protect the clue would want someone who doesn't really want it. Yeah, I was also a bit disappointed by the resolution. Like, you just have to acknowledge your flaws. Like, if I had gone in there and gone, right, I just really want to kill people, you know? If Gul Dukat had went in there, is like, I hate the Bajorans. They're so disrespectful. They don't understand all the good I do murdering them. And I want this text specifically to murder those goddamn Bajorans. And it honestly takes over my life, how much I hate the Bajorans. Would he have clapped his hands and gone, you know what, Dukat, it takes a big man to admit that your hatred to the Bajorans takes over your life. Here's the clue. It was like, because that seemed to be the only requirement. It's like, okay, you've acknowledged your flaws, but, like, that doesn't, you could still use your flaws to, like, use the technology for bad. Heck, if Sisko sat down and acknowledged his flaw of being okay with faking something so the Romulans win in the Dominion War, would he go, yeah, you know what? This is the man we want to give the tech to. God, don't give the tech to Sisko. She became a much better officer when she became captain. No, she didn't, right? I thought, best Trek, worst Trek. I confused her picture. What happened is, by making her captain, they didn't fix that she was super insubordinate. It meant that they usually gave her no one to be insubordinate to. And in season 3, anytime someone needed to go against authority, her superior was always in favor of it. But she was still defying authority. And so they really hid it. Like, I think even the point of this episode is we haven't really resolved the problems. Like, here are my character flaws. Here are why this takes me over. And, like, if this was something in season 1 or 2, we probably could have made Burnham better. But it felt like an acknowledgement that Burnham hasn't really resolved her problems. This is what they are, and in season 6, I'm going to start working on them, kind of thing. But they just obscured it. And don't get me wrong, infinitely better. Just obscuring the problem improved Burnham so much. It improved Discovery. But yeah, I don't think it's that she is off the walls. It's just that they stopped giving her someone to be insubordinate to. But yeah, Dukat would have made up a bunch of BS to try and convince the program he was a good guy. I mean, yeah, but if he had admitted it was kind of my point, you know? He wouldn't have, but if he had, or like if the Breen guy had actually admitted, it's like, I'm just power hungry, man, you know? Brilliant. Here's the tech you want. Yeah, it's just, it was a little underwhelming to me. It's not like it doesn't make sense. And ultimately, I mean, what can you do? If you want this technology out, but only to the right person, there's really only so much you can do. Because there's no, even if you have, like, the perfect person, like, theoretically gaining what is believed to be absolute power could make them corrupt, you know? So it's like, well, ultimately, you gotta try something. And these scientists are motivated by belief, you know? Especially in a time when they really want some hope, the Dominion War, you know? I just personally found it a little underwhelming and just unsatisfying how Burnham failed to deal with this situation. I almost said dealt with, but, you know, that gives her a bit too much credit. You want some positivity? Come down tomorrow. We'll talk about Stephen Moffat's Doctor Who episode. Do you think there's a rare copy of Alice in Wonderland? Are there rare copies of... I mean, there probably are, but... I almost said... what I've just realized, sorry. They probably should have hid these clearly, like, incandescent light bulbs. But anyway, I was almost gonna say, one justification you could give for why all these books look really human is that maybe this is just, like, the human section. Because 100% Earth, Federation Earth, would fully support this and donate, like, everything they have. They'd put one of everything important in here. Especially after Memory Alpha got destroyed. But Memory Alpha, I think, was always, like, a digital archive. Are we buffering? My YouTube playback is buffering, but I'm not dropping frames. YouTube? We're good. We're back. Yeah, I mean, it's still a little, like, that's a big human section. But, you know, there are a lot of huge rare library books. If Earth did just give, like, everything, you could probably fill a section this big. Ignore the fact that the book in question is Betazoid, I guess. Yeah, I've already talked a whole lot about the section here. You're still streaming, cool. I was wondering, though, just more about this scenario. Like, if I read this book extremely hungry, would, like, my refrigerator be the most important part in the world? I'm just imagining if the most important place in the world to you was somewhere very small and empty. Like, what if the Void Room was the most important place on Earth to you? So there was literally nothing to explore. It would have made it so painfully obvious that the AI is the thing you're meant to be interacting with. Could you imagine it, like, the AI waking up and they're going, damn, I was really expecting more to work with here. Yeah, not... Again, it was a pretty basic plot with the Breen, but it's not really the focus. The focus is on this library room. I do like these uniforms. I just find it weird how Klingon they are. Like, come on. This is peaceful 32nd century Klingon. You even got the soldier... Is it, like... It's that or aggressive Time Lord. It's one of the two. I did like, you know, we are 4 episodes from the end of the entire series. But, okay, genuine question. Is this the first time in the show's history where someone has been in command who wasn't the captain or first officer? I've remembered Tilly did it once. But that was actually part of, like, a narrative. It was a part of, like... No, Tilly was first officer. Yeah, okay, has there been any other time that the person on the bridge wasn't the captain or the first officer? Because I liked... We actually gave the other crew something to do. Which I will admit, this season has been a lot better than the others. Still probably not really where I'd want it. And they are struggling with episode count. You know, that's going to affect it. But even then, in, like, what's season 1 of Voyager? Isn't that, like, 16 episodes? I feel like they had the other crew do more. You know, or even just in the first 10 episodes of a series. Reese has been in command before? All right, he's second officer. Well, I'd hope he's second officer if he's commanding the bridge right now. I didn't know he was second officer, though. Like, I know nothing about this bridge crew. I think I know more about this bridge crew than I do employees at Quark's bar now. I don't think that's true anymore. But yeah, it's just a big shame that kind of giving the crew a moment to shine scene is another instance of if you remodulate your shields, the problem is solved. Did anyone else catch that? They're using a beam to match the exact frequency of the shields, and so their solution is... Actually, I've realized it's even worse, because their solution is to force the Breen ship to remodulate their beam. You could also hail the archive and tell them to remodulate their shields, and that would work. And it's still baffling that that's not, like, the first thing you do, especially when your shields are bypassed, is to remodulate your shields, because it usually is the answer. And it's like, it's standard practice every time, except the times where it would work. This isn't a new problem, but gosh, why do we have to keep creating new instances? To play a bit of devil's advocate, right? Remodulating your shields has always been weird to me. Maybe someone in the chat is like a different take, but the whole thing is the shields block, stuff getting through. So if I fire a phaser, it won't go through the shields, except the shields work at a certain frequency. And if you match that frequency, you can bypass the shields. If you have a beam that's a different, oh, you're right, Nelson has been in command. But if you have a beam that's a different frequency, the same frequency as the shield, you can beam through. So I've always wondered, I think, in fact, wasn't this the plot of Generations? If you fire a phaser, or like it's a shit phaser, it shields. It's the same frequency as the shield. Won't it just go through? So why isn't your first shot just cycle through every frequency and see which one goes through, and then, do that? Or just have if every shot goes through every frequency, then unless you're remodulating shields, you'll go through every time. So why doesn't everyone do it? And then why isn't remodulating the shields the default? Because that's the only counter to that strategy, and even then it only works sometimes. But it was real disappointing. And of course, Jet Reno has to go on like a personal life story, well under active fire. Well, okay, no, under an active time pressure. But hey, I think, actually, I missed it. I think this is another example of Adira actually being a competent officer, but still a nervous character. Yeah. It feels so baseline, like they were just doing their job under stressful circumstances, so I didn't notice. But I do have to call it out, because this is the second time it's happened. Maybe, last time how they did that, and I complained that they had to bring attention to it. Maybe that's why, is he just literally wouldn't notice. God, I'm being very passive-aggressive today. I just came off a great episode of Doctor Who, you were fighting an uphill battle. Oh yeah, I forgot the other complaint is, when I saw this maze, I was like, I would ask the AI, like, does my tech work in here? Could my tech teleport me out of the maze? Because I think the badges can teleport independent of the ship. I'm not 100% sure. I think Insurrection had that tech, though, so it would make sense if the badges did. But then she just uses her map, right? Like, she pulls up a map of the maze that she is in the process of. Like, at some point, I swear it says, like, 58% complete. And it's like, why don't you just use the map of the maze? Why don't you scan the maze? Like, it's your mind. I don't know. Can you just do that? Again, I had an increasing number of problems. It was kind of the point where it was just like, little cut, little cut, little cut, little cut. And then it was the one where the AI was like, again, come on, give me something. I've just caught on to you've just started the path down the solution. I want you to succeed. Give me something. And Burnham was like, no, I'm done. Then I was like, okay, there's the straw that broke the camel's back. Best trick worth a trek. Phasers make a massive power drain. Do you understand how many frequencies there are? You're talking about hundreds of thousands of millions of tries to get it right. Okay, but there's a max frequency and there's a minimum frequency, right? So why don't you... The phasers go in like an arc, right? Like a TNG phaser. However long that firing process is, like 3 seconds, let's say. Why don't you start at the max frequency and then go down to the minimum frequency? And you'll see when that goes through. And even if you can't get the exact one, you've massively narrowed it down to maybe within like thousands of frequencies. So fire again, and then, you know, over that much wider range. So you're processing slower, and like you'll get there. I guess you could say that phasers and shields are inherently on different frequencies, so your phaser could never bypass a shield. That's an easy way to do it. But there might just be a hard counter against that, to be like, no, here's a time where it did work. Like, again, generations. Because that was the plot, right? Is they knew the frequency, so the Klingon bird of prey could fire through the shields. I'm pretty sure that's what happened in Generations. Been a good while, though. Again, we really talk too much. There's not a whole lot to say about this episode. Again, it's slow. Not in a bad way. If the way Burnham handled the Mind Palace was stronger, this would be a great episode. This would be perfectly paced. Pacing is not an issue here. It was just the content. Like, I'd be down for an episode of this time. Like, I didn't mind the 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes to get in the library, because there was enough going on, and the setting was pleasant enough to just take yourself in, you know. That frequencies was down to the 100th of a hertz, though. I don't know. I just feel like it's worth a try, right? Like, if your phaser's not going to do anything, it's... I don't know. I mean, there's probably a reason. It's always hard, though, when with these technologies that are, like, basically as well-defined as the plot needs it. It's like... Well, like I said, maybe phasers and shields are just, like, different frequencies. Maybe you can't modulate a phaser frequency. It's, like, one and done. We don't know. I think you're still thinking thousands of possible combinations minimum. But yeah, I mean, if you do them all at once, that's kind of what I'm saying. It doesn't really matter how many there are if you just do them all at the same time. Or like you just cycle through them in one beam. Because at some point, a bit of that's going to go through. But who knows? Who knows? If I'd write just the line, you know, that... I don't know. I'll have to, you know what, we'll stick around, and when my watch-alongs eventually get to Generations, then we'll find out. Where's the part where she just assassinates the guy? Okay, that's still way at the end. Yeah, we already talked again about the Mind Palace stuff. Yeah, look at it, like, right there is the cafeteria or whatever. They've just extended it down. This is such a good location. Now that I've noticed it, I really wish these lights weren't incandescent bulbs. I feel like you probably could have done some magic over that. And yeah, they did extend this out, but you know, it's really good. Now that I've said it, this outfit is very Time Lord. It's very Doctor Who. I found this a little funny, that especially under active red alert, the archive has no protection. Like when Book, quote unquote, was like, there's a crystal in this room, go and smash it. I was like, oh, I bet the archive will love that. Do you think the Federation is banned from the archive now? Because from their perspective, they went in this room, smashed a crystal, and left. Okay, maybe the old archivist, like... the scientists dismantled this, you know, the security system. I've just realized it's a good thing they never moved this crystal in 800 years. It was funny, you know, it's not really a problem, but it was funny. On the other hand, something that is a problem, why is there red alert blue? Oh, it's a black alert, that's right. I'm fine with this ending, right? Why did the Breen, the Priarch, want to destroy the archive, right? He thinks he's destroyed Discovery. He's gotten everything he needs. He is 6 hours away from the clue. No one's gonna beat him there. The Federation doesn't know where it is, as far as he's aware. And so he violates his sacred oath to fire upon a unarmed, neutral target, which we've established has several priceless Breen artifacts, is the Breen are contributors to the archive, in full view of his crew, which he knows Mole has been working to actively undermine his authority for. And part of that has been to point out that he doesn't respect Breen archives. To be fair, the Priarch might not have heard that. I don't remember. And not only that, he really pushes for it. He doesn't go, you know what, you're right, my bad. He's dedicated. He's dead set. At first I thought maybe he doesn't want anyone else to get the clue, to see the book. But he's already got the clue. Like, they can't get the clue. There's nothing they can glean from there because Discovery had the clue and now he has it. He has no reason to do this. Oh, and also his weapons that could easily penetrate the archive shields. Discovery can just take it. We'll brush by that. But, like, the only reason for him to do this is to get assassinated. That's the only reason. It doesn't make sense. It's a reckless... Like, is he angry? They don't even try to provide a justification. He's just like, blow him up. Yep. Blow him up. No reason. It's not because they did... Even if he was like, they disobeyed me, right? They defied us. Then, okay, now you've just built that it's because he's angry. And he has a temper, which I think we've established. He does. But, I mean, we've also shown him to be clever. Like, he negotiated with the Federation because he doesn't actually need Locke. He really needs Locke out of other people's hands. Like, he's shown he can show restraint when it matters. And here it really doesn't matter. I like the silent chat that's like, yeah, no, I can't justify this. I was a little worried that Maul was kind of like going to take command and all these Breen were going to be like, okay, we'll follow Maul now. We've completely rejected our racist traditions and are on your side. But no, she's all about bringing Locke back, and they very much follow Locke. And that makes sense. I mean, she's a necessary evil until such a point where they get Locke back. I'm on board. Mm-hmm. She even pitched it like that, you know, like, hey, let's go get Locke back. This was just, again, I've made this complaint an unfortunate amount of times this series. It was something that happened because the plot needed that guy to be dead. I'm even struggling to think of, like, a poor justification for why he would have fired. I mean, I guess he was angry was the reason. He was angry to the point where he jeopardized literally everything in the most, like, precarious position possible. I don't know, man. I don't know. But, I mean, it's still, this has been fine. We're about to get our answers. We got 3 more episodes left. Like, why the heck is this tech so dangerous? I'm still half convinced that, like, it's gonna be nothing. It's gonna be a dud or, like, looted or, you know, it's gonna be like, this was important, but we now actually have all this tech. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have 2. We have 2 more episodes. I was counting today's stream when I looked at my calendar. So presumably like a 2-parter then? I mean, I guess it's a 3-parter. This was part 1. What is it? Because I know the finale is life itself, which I'm probably not going to be too happy about given the title. Oh yeah, Lagrange point. I really, really, really hope that the justification for why no one has found the progenitor's tech in the past, heck, not even 800 years, like several thousand years. Like, the Cardassians have been walking around here, the Breen, The Tholians, the Federation, like, people have been around here for a long time. Ancient Bajorans might have been able to find this. Is because it's hidden in a Lagrange point. Quote-unquote hidden in a Lagrange point. Like, probably the most useful interstellar orbit. If you don't know, every single pair of bodies in which one is orbiting the other in the universe have 4 or 6 Lagrange points. 5. It's 5 Lagrange. Actually, why am I talking about it? Lagrange points. There you go. Every single 2 bodies in the universe, or I guess, no, it's 2, has 5 Lagrange points. 1 somewhere between the 2. 1 exactly on the opposite side of the orbit. 2 a certain ways ahead of it. I don't remember how that's determined exactly. It might be halfway between, going up and down. And then 1 kind of behind the 2 bodies. And each one of these points is something you can orbit. Look, if you're not familiar with orbiting technically nothing, orbital mechanics is weird. Just accept it. You can orbit it, and they're incredibly useful. Like, especially L2 over here. You can orbit this point behind the Earth in, like, that's extraordinarily useful. You could always get either like the same view of Earth from far away. You can this one's really useful because you can look at the cosmos, like stuff outside the solar system, but always have a constant like view of Earth to send data back. Because if you were in orbit, you and Earth would eventually get out of sync, so you couldn't see each other. Same as 2 for, in fact, 1, 4, 5. They're all like that, but I think 2 is the easiest to get to. Probably because it's further from the sun. Yeah, don't question about it. You want to know the hardest place in the universe to get to in terms of how much rocket fuel you need? It's the sun. It's a weird fact about it. Provided you are patient, the hardest place to get into the universe in terms of delta V, how much fuel you need, essentially, is the sun. Because orbital mechanics are weird. But the reason, by the way, is because you would have to cancel out the entire orbital velocity of Earth, which is really high. And the orbital velocity to leave the solar system is less than that. But it would be very, very dumb, especially if you say L3. If you say that the progenitor, like, this is Bajor or something, and there was, like, something just on the other side of Bajor, or especially an inhabited planet, but like no one noticed because it was hidden in a Lagrange point, 0 out of 10. That's what they're doing, isn't it? That's what they're gonna do. Because why else would it be Lagrange point? Honestly, that might be a more egregious offense than all of TOS's orbital mechanics. But hey, I've just realized I'm judging an episode before it aired, and so maybe it's not. That could be a kind of fun thing if you've hidden, like, a clue. But they're just incredibly useful orbits. And they're not, like, the biggest things. If there was something in a Lagrange point, we would have realized, you know? It's not like a space is big and the thing is hidden. No, we'd have realized. They're Lagrange points, you know, they're mathematical points. But yeah, I think we're gonna start wrapping things up. Whoops. I was about to say that was a pretty good episode. You know what? It wasn't bad. It was fine. I mean, it's Discovery, you know? When Discovery's good, it's not really good in exceptional ways. When Discovery is bad, you know what? It is bad in exceptional ways. But generally, it's somewhere along the middle. Where it's like, yeah, it was fine. I guess how we'll think of Season 5 really just depends on how much they pull things together at the end. Because that's always important, your core narrative. I mean, looking back, I always think of Season 2 of Picard much better than it is, because they're like 3 core scenes they nailed. They didn't nail getting there, but they nailed those core scenes. And And so you forget about all the garbage that's in between. And then Picard Season 3, I have a pretty gosh darn bad view of, because their 10th episode is atrocious, and it fumbles everything, and it doesn't even connect to the previous 9, which were great. And so my overall view of Season 3 is very much hindered by the ending, by just Episode 10. And so, honestly, knowing Discovery, they're going to slam right down in the middle. If they crash and burn, you know what? At least we ended how we started. But we'll do a lot of retrospective stuff at the end. We'll celebrate first day of LGBT month with the final review of Discovery. I mean, not for me. Presumably, I will come back around and do the older stuff. Even if I break my chronological watch-throughs and kind of do more sporadically, I'll definitely throw Sound of Thunder, because that's an episode everyone loves, and they're wrong about it, and I need to vent, because there's only one other person I found who's agreed with me. Yeah. So I will say, without further... Oh, well, no, tomorrow, next week, Doctor Who, feel free to join. Good episode. I won't say too much about it. I'm interested to see what Caden thinks. It'll be an interesting one. But yeah, you'll have to wait and see what I really think. All those juicy details. I promise it won't be 5 hours. Thank you all very much for watching.